We might find new ways of making photographs to counter. What's going to happen with AI? It generates an image, and then it's going to carry on generating images, and eventually it's going to become quite incestuous, as it's going to be using its own generated images to make more generated images. And there's all this sort of AI interbreeding will produce deformed images, but then AI will learn while it goes along not to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, isn't it?
It
We should have hope for the next generation of photographers and like future photographers, because you either have to adapt or die with AI. Yes, that's probably the biggest challenge photographers have faced. But like you were saying about cubism, the painters that came about when photography kind of became more commonplace, adapted. Picasso's work selling for hundreds of millions of pounds. So maybe this challenge has a lot of benefits because it's going to challenge photographers to create better work and separate themselves from the crowd. That's the hope.
It is terrifying. When Photoshop came along, a lot of photographers were terribly threatened. And they said I would never touch Photoshop with anything. And it's now part of the workflow. You don't have to be deceitful. You can, if you're altering light and you're just making more balanced prints and maybe doing some minor retouching. Now AI is a big, terrifying thing. And again, I think people will adapt and change because you have to. You're forced to. When people are in a corner, that's when they're often in their most inventive. So I look forward to seeing where it's all going to go. I think it's right. The copyright issue with regard to AI is a problem because, as I said, I've had my images, I've had AI generate images from prompts, only from just from typing, make an image of, and it finds mine on the internet and everybody else's. That's a problem.
Yeah. And do you think there will be a whole generation of AI artists and photographers that end up having work in galleries, maybe similar to photographers having their photos in galleries? Do you think there will be a kind of industry for that?
You mean AI images in galleries?
Yeah, and AI art.
I recall seeing some examples of that sort of thing, people selling AI art. Is that going to be a fad? Is that going to have lasting value? I think you need to think in terms of what's going to have the best lasting value. Maybe that goes down to the uniqueness of the print. Going back to Photo London, looking at original prints by Bill Brandt and Andre Cartes and these people, they were the previous analog age, and those original prints, they can't be copied or duplicated. They have the value that paintings have because they're originals. And as long as they have that, they'll have the value. But when you can just generate these things endlessly and they might look pretty for a while, I don't think they will stand the test of time in the way that a lot of vintage photographic works of art from top names.
Yeah, unless they found a way to make the printing process an art itself, like photographers have. I imagine them kind of creating an image that is like unique, and then it's whether they can turn that into something physically valuable, because I feel like at the moment it is just too digital.